I was 31 years old, stepping off the bus into the cold air of December. And for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't a soldier anymore. No salutes, no formations, no alarms jolting me awake at 0400. Just me, Elena Carter, dragging a duffel bag heavier with memories than gear. My boots crunched against salted sidewalks, but it was the kind of fatigue you don't walk off, the kind that embeds itself in your bones after 2 deployments and too many nights patching bodies you couldn't always save. Christmas lights shimmered across the neighborhood, as if the whole city had agreed to smile at once. The smell of cinnamon drifted from bakeries, and children squealed in scarves too big for their faces. I hadn't had a family Christmas since I was 22. In the deserts overseas, I used to imagine it. The tree, the warmth, just sitting at the same table with the people who raised me. I didn't care about presents. I didn't care about the lights. I just wanted to feel like I still belonged. But 3 days before Christmas, my phone buzzed. The sender, Dad. My chest tightened. I opened it quickly, almost like a kid again, expecting an invitation, maybe even excitement. Instead, 4 sentences carved me open like glass. Your sister's husband will be there. You know how tense things got last time. Maybe sit this one out. It's better for everyone. I read it twice. My thumb hovered over the screen as if maybe another message would follow, softening the blow. But there was only one more line. This is a family event. Please respect that. I froze. Respect that. Respect being told I wasn't family. Respect being erased after wiring home money from Iraq to help when the bank threatened foreclosure, after buying them a new car when the old one died on the freeway, after sending birthday gifts from bases where mail was a miracle. I wasn't a daughter anymore. I was an inconvenience. My throat, it was. Because the moment I wasn't convenient, I was disposable. That night, I whispered to myself, they've made their choice. They chose silence, and I gave it back to them. 5 days later, New Year's Eve morning, I woke up to 10 missed calls and 1 voicemail. Groggy, I pressed play. A man's voice, measured, professional. This is Donovan Green, legal counsel for your parents. There's been an urgent matter concerning the property deed and financial signatures. Please call me back immediately. My blood turned cold. Suddenly, I was family again. But they didn't know one thing. When they uninvited me from their table, they also severed the only tie holding their house together. My name. My signature. My sacrifice. They thought I was just the daughter who left. What they forgot was that I was the one who paid off the house. The voicemail wouldn't stop echoing in my head. I replayed it twice, then a 3rd time, pacing barefoot across my apartment floor. Donovan Green, my parents' lawyer, property deed, financial signatures. The words carried the same weight as a warning flare, bright, urgent, impossible to ignore. I finally called him back, my hands trembling as if I were back in a combat zone. The line clicked and his voice came through calm and practiced. Ms. Carter, thank you for returning my call. I'm reaching out on behalf of your parents regarding the Carter residence on Hawthorne Lane. My stomach nodded. That house. The same house I used to mow the lawn for as a teenager. The same house where I strung up Christmas lights with Dad, the ladder wobbling as we argued about straight lines. What about it? I asked, though part of me already knew. It seems your parents are attempting to refinance their mortgage. However, his pause was deliberate. Your signature is required to release the lien. I stopped pacing, my blood iced. Lien? Yes, the soldier they had erased from Christmas was the only reason their roof hadn't already caved in. They want me to sign off. Yes, To move forward with refinancing, your release is required. I leaned back, exhaled sharply, then found my voice steady, even cold. Tell them no. Silence stretched on the other end of the line. Finally, Green cleared his throat. Pardon? Tell them the soldier isn't covering their silence anymore. They shut me out of Christmas. They don't get to unlock the house without facing me first. There was another pause, then a clipped response. Very well, I'll inform them. When the call ended, I sat in the quiet for a long time. My apartment walls seemed to close in, lined with old deployment photos and medals I had stopped dusting years ago. On the desk was a framed picture, me in uniform, standing proudly between my parents, all of us smiling like we were unbreakable. I stared at it until my eyes burned, then turned it face down. Because that version of us didn't exist anymore. Maybe it never had. The next morning, I walked into the county clerk's office, paperwork in hand. The clerk barely looked up, just stamped the forms with bureaucratic indifference. But to me, it felt monumental. I froze the property title, not out of malice, not even revenge, out of principle. I drafted my own letter to Green later that afternoon. Per the terms of the 2020 agreement, I declined to release the lien on the Carter residence. This is a formal decision. No future requests will be considered. I signed it, mailed it certified, and sat back in my chair. For once, the silence wasn't theirs. It was mine. And this time it was powerful. But I knew silence wouldn't last long. My family had never learned to accept boundaries. They'd come knocking, one way or another. And I would be ready. The knock came It was just one Christmas. You know how Dad gets. Tense, traditional. He didn't mean anything by that text. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. He told me I wasn't welcome. And you didn't even text me, not one word. Vanessa waved her manicured hand as if swatting away an annoying fly. Fine, we messed up. But now things are complicated. The lawyer said you're blocking the refinance. Mom's stressed, Dad's furious. Just sign the release so we can move on. We're trying to fix up the kitchen, maybe even put in a pool for the grandkids. I laughed, the sound harsher than I intended. Whose grandkids, Vanessa? Because last I checked, you and your husband don't let my goddaughter call Dad Grandpa. Her face flickered, but she smoothed it quickly. That's different. Is it? I stepped closer. You've spent years building a life where I don't exist. No phone calls, no holidays, no space for me at the table. And now when money's on the line, suddenly I matter? She bristled, her tone sharpening. You always think you're better than us just because you wore a uniform. Newsflash, that doesn't make you special. It just makes you bitter. The words cut deep, but I didn't flinch. I steadied my gaze on her. I don't think I'm better. I am better. Better than people who treat their own sister like an ATM until she finally says no. Her smile cracked, the mask slipping. For a second, I saw the real Vanessa, cornered, desperate. She crossed her arms, her diamond bracelet catching the light. You'll regret this. You're cutting yourself off. I almost laughed. You already cut me off. I'm just honoring it legally. Her heels clacked like thunder as she stormed down the stairs, the echo bouncing off the walls long after she disappeared. I stood there in the chill evening air, arms crossed, heart pounding. When the sound, neighbours from church, women from her quilting circle, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Praying for you, Diane. Kids today have no heart. Stay strong, family always comes around. Each comment was a knife twisting deeper, a story being rewritten right before my eyes. In their version, I wasn't the daughter who had wired home my hazard pay to save their roof. I wasn't the medic who had spent nights stitching together strangers overseas while my own family unraveled back home. No, in their version, I was the villain, the ungrateful child who held her parents hostage with pens and paperwork. My hands shook as I scrolled. The betrayal wasn't private anymore. It was public, deliberate, a performance staged for sympathy. I could have ignored it. I could have logged off, swallowed the rage, let them win the narrative. But soldiers don't let lies take the field uncontested. So I opened my file drawer, pulled out the thick envelope I had labelled 2020 Mortgage Agreement. I snapped a photo of the deed. My signature, their signatures, the stamp seal. Beneath it, in black and white, the amount wired from my account. $162,000. Paid in full. I posted it with a single caption. $162,000. Merry Christmas. No hashtags, no anger, just the truth. Within minutes, the comments shifted. People who had gushed sympathy on my mother's post now typed question marks under hers. Others deleted their words entirely. My inbox pinged with private messages. Wait, you paid off their house? They never said that. My mother's post vanished 2 hours later, deleted like it had never existed. But silence in the digital age is louder than any sermon. Screenshots were already circulating. The truth was out. For years, I had been the silent one, paying bills, covering emergencies, wiring money without question. They'd grown used to that version. I chose it on purpose. Neutral ground. Public enough that no one could raise their voice without drawing attention. They were already there when I walked in. My father sat stiff-backed in a booth, his knuckles white around a chipped mug. My mother wore her church pearls, the same ones she always put on when she needed to look respectable, rehearsed, flawless. Between them sat a laminated menu neither of them had touched. I slid into the opposite bench. No hug, no smile. Just the sound of vinyl squeaking under my weight. "You look healthy," my mother said, forcing brightness into her voice. Her eyes flicked over me quickly, as if scanning for cracks she could exploit. I sipped my water without replying. My father cleared his throat, leaning forward. "Elena, we've had our differences, but you've done so much for us, more than we ever deserved, and we want to acknowledge that." It sounded like an opening statement, too polished to be real. I waited, and right on cue came the rest. "We're on the verge of losing the house," he continued. "The bank's tightening the deadline. If you could just sign off on the refinancing, just this once, we could save it. For the family." For the family. The phrase landed like a curse. I set my glass down carefully. "Don't say that word to me. You told me I wasn't family when you locked me out of Christmas." My mother flinched. "We didn't mean it like that. Things just got tense. Your sister's husband, don't." I cut her off, my voice sharp. "You sent me a text that said, 'This is a family event, please respect that. You made your choice. Don't rewrite it now.'" The silence between us thickened. A waitress passed by, refilling mugs without looking up. My father's jaw tightened, his mask slipping. "Elena, pride doesn't put a roof over your head. Don't let stubbornness destroy everything we've built together." My chest burned, but I'm sliding out of the booth. This meeting was a courtesy. I won't be signing. I won't be guilted. And I won't be the safety net you only remember when the floor caves in. My father's face hardened. My mother's eyes widened. But I didn't give them time to speak. I walked out into the biting winter air, the diner door swinging shut behind me. And for the first time in years, I felt lighter. Not happy, not vengeful. just free of the weight I had been dragging since the day I first wore a uniform. The envelope appeared 2 nights later, slipped under my apartment door without a knock, without a sound. I spotted it in the dim hall light when I came home from a late shift at the clinic, the cream paper catching against the dark linoleum. No stamp, no return address. My stomach sank before I even bent to pick it up. Inside were 3 things. The first, a handwritten letter in my mother's neat cursive, the loops and flourishes too careful, too polished. Elena, we know we've made mistakes. We never meant to hurt you. The holidays weren't the same without you. Please consider this an attempt at rebuilding. Families fight, but families forgive. Love, Mom and Dad. The second, a photo. Me, age 10, wearing a crooked paper crown from a Christmas cracker, holding a Barbie doll I'd begged for that year. My smile, wide, innocent, untouched by the knowledge of what abandonment would taste like years later. And the third, a check. $15,000. The numbers glared up at me like a slap. I stared at it for a long time, my hands trembling. A payoff. A bribe dressed as goodwill. They wanted me to believe this was an olive branch, but it wasn't. It was a transaction. $15,000 to forgive being erased from my own family. $15,000 to let them refinance the house I had already paid for. $15,000 to buy sign. Received a letter from mine. My client is not interested in renegotiating boundaries she established after emotional and financial abuse. No further contact is welcome. I poured myself into my work at the clinic, volunteering extra hours, teaching first aid classes for local teens. It was easier to care for strangers than to bleed for family who only saw me as a wallet. At night, though, the silence lingered. I'd sit with my journal, documenting everything: dates, messages, meetings, even the bribe check. Not because I wanted to sue them, not because I needed revenge, but because I refused to let my story be rewritten by anyone but me. And slowly, I began to feel something new. Not anger, not grief. Something steadier. Boundaries. For the first time, I wasn't the forgotten daughter trying to earn my seat at the table. I wasn't the soldier paying debts in exchange for scraps of affection. I was Elena Carter, and I was done being bought. The news came from an unexpected source. A former neighbor, Mrs. Patel, who used to bring over samosas whenever Dad shoveled her driveway. Her message was short, but it hit like a mortar round. Elena, I thought you should know. Your parents' house is on Zillow. Looks like they're desperate to sell. Price has already been reduced twice. I sat, frozen, staring at the link she'd attached. Curiosity tugged at me until I clicked. There it was. 214 Hawthorne Lane. My childhood home, dressed up for strangers. The listing photos tried to paint charm where there was only decay. Angled shots of the porch that cropped out the sagging boards, wide lenses in the kitchen that made the outdated tile look intentional instead of neglected. Asking price, $312,000. Reduced twice. I scrolled through the images, my jaw tightening. The same living room where I'd slept under the tree waiting for Santa. The kitchen backsplash I had paid for after the last one from him before this. This is a family event. Please respect that. Now that the bank had frozen the refinance, now that the buyers weren't biting, now that their will-figure-it-out arrogance had collapsed into panic, they suddenly remembered I was family. I typed one sentence. I'll meet you, in public. When we met, it was at a diner again. A different one, but the same smell of stale coffee and fried oil hung in the air. My father looked older. his shoulders slumped as though the house itself had been holding him upright all these years. My mother wore those pearls again, her armour of denial. Vanessa wasn't there. Of course not. She never showed up when accountability was on the menu. They started soft, rehearsed. My mother reached across the table, her fingers grazing the napkin. "You look strong, Elena. We miss you. We've been under so much stress." I said nothing, just stirred my coffee until it sloshed against the chipped ceramic. My father leaned in, his voice low, careful. "We're sorry, Elena, truly. We shouldn't have excluded you. We were wrong." I looked between them, waiting, and there it was, the real reason. His voice tightened, almost pleading. "We're on the verge of losing the house. If you could just—" He trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid. "If I could just save you again," I finished for him. They both nodded, hope flashing in their eyes, but I shook my head. "No, you didn't invite me to Christmas. You uninvited me from the family. I won't sign away the only protection I gave myself just because your consequences finally showed up." My mother's lip trembled. "But we're your parents." I leaned forward, my voice calm but sharp as glass. "And you taught me family is a choice. Every time you chose pride over love. Every time you asked for money, but never once asked if I was safe overseas. You made the one Dad always promised to fix but never did." The kitchen tile gleamed under staged lights, the same tile I had paid for after my second deployment. It looked sterile now, stripped of warmth, stripped of honesty. But this time, the ache was gone. They weren't losing the house because of me. They were losing it because they had chosen control over gratitude, pride over love. They had treated me like a transaction, and now their balance had come due. A month later, the listing disappeared. Word trickled down through cousins and neighbours. Foreclosure. My parents had moved into a cramped rental across town. Vanessa was furious, blaming me at church luncheons and PTA meetings, spinning the story until people stopped listening altogether. Their world shrank. Mine expanded. Because I had already made my choice. I took what I'd been saving, not to rescue anyone else this time, but to build something of my own. A cabin in the woods, small but sturdy, with wide windows that opened to pine and sky. Every nail, every light switch, every dish inside belonged to me. No liens, no strings, no guilt. That first Thanksgiving I hosted in my own home. Not with family who measured my worth in dollars, but with friends who saw me as Elena. With Maya, my goddaughter, running barefoot across the wooden floor, giggling that it was our magic tree house. She roasted marshmallows in the fireplace until they charred black, then handed me one with a grin. "This one's for you, the strongest girl I know," she said. And for once, I didn't flinch at the words. Maybe it wasn't true in every way, but she believed it. And maybe, finally, so did I. Later, under a sky littered with stars, we sat wrapped in blankets sipping cocoa. Maya asked me softly, "Do you think they'll ever say sorry?" I shook my head. "They don't know